is the Kev Baker Show. Seeking answers to age-old questions, deciphering the world painted around you by the mainstream media. This is the Kev Baker Show. And now, here is your host, Kev Baker.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. A big, huge, massive, warm welcome to your number one network, www.truthfrequencyradio.com. I'm your host, Kev Baker. This is the Kev Baker Show, and tonight it gives me absolutely immense pleasure to welcome back to his throne the king himself, Mr. Johnny Whistles.
How you doing, Kev?
I'm absolutely... Johnny...
Noises, sorry, Kev, there's noises in the background. There's clapping and sheep going off and everything in the background here.
Oh, Johnny, is this your first visit to my new chat room? Isn't it so beautiful? Chris Gio done a really good job of that for us here on the Kev Baker Show and for the Woo crew out there in Chatland.
Oh, fantastic. Honestly, some of them noises are absolutely crazy.
Well, Johnny, I don't know who it was last night, and even with the time delay that there is between us talking on Skype and it going out live, somebody absolutely epically timed a mwahahaha to coincide with the guest talking about psychopaths. You really couldn't make it up. But Johnny, how have you been, man? You've been sorely missed.
Kev, I've just been working like a dog, to be honest with you. But I was really missing the show, and the fact that I can't get to listen to it when I'm at work is another one. So I usually wait to come in the morning.
The glass is always half full. You're on the show now. Let's enjoy it. Let's hit the chat, man.
Okay, Kev. So we'll get 33 people here just now.
Woo-hoo.
Starting with Kaiser Chief, Matt D, Flowerchild, Stushy, Takradact, Al, Kev, Dr. Harry Wiener, North for South, Popeye, how you doing, buddy? Foswald, Dorico, Kevty, Russell Brand, Wardy, Ronnie Whistles, I love that name, Penelope, how you doing, pal? Soup Dragon, Mystical Fairy, John Teeter was here, Kim from Korea, The Third Darkness, Gentleman Skeptic, Paisley Buddy, Etoily Star, something like that, IV Nurse, Harold, Uber, Rookie, Aussie Anzac, We Miss Whistles, thanks very much, Equilibrium, Angel Whispers, and Harry Anslinger.
Absolutely awesome stuff. 34 in the chat. Johnny Whistles, how am I sounding? I was coming across a bit hot there to begin with, I believe.
Yeah, you're fine now, Kev. That's perfect, mate.
Excellent stuff. And on that note, let's get to our next guest tonight. Our sister, our divine feminine herself, Nanogirl. How are you doing?
Oh my goodness, I'm great. I was telling you guys before the show, this is a spectacularly beautiful day out here. You only need a sweater, blue sky. They didn't dump too much chemtrails on our head, and it's a great Christmas day. Yay. Close to Christmas.
And of course, Nano, you have this has been a big year for you, as it has for all of us. And at this show tonight, we're going to look back at 2014. We're also going to take a look forward into 2015 and how we can be the change that we want to see in the world. It's something that resonates on this actual network with all of us being the actual change. And I want to start with you, Nano, because you've started with radio this year. You've started a new job. It's all been going on for you. It's been a year of transition. How's 2014 been for the Nanogirl?
Well, you know, it's funny. You've got the Internet of Things. I would call this the year of the letting go of things and thoughts that just no longer work for me. And I think I knew it was a hard year as I walked through most of the days. And I knew that I was having to go into some deep introspection stuff. And it was uncomfortable. This was not a fun year, really. But it's amazing. I mean, look what happened. I've got a job, a great job, and I met you guys. I've never done public speaking. I couldn't remember anything to save my life. I still forget stuff on your show, but for the most part, it's a miracle. I mean, I can come on the show, we have so much in common, and I'm able to just share all this stuff. And I've always been a radio person. I've always listened to shows. I've always wanted to be a part of it, but it just never occurred to me to give it a try. So that's truly one of the best miracles. And to be able to end up meeting you guys, we're just so in sync with so many of the things that we have in our backgrounds and how we love to share things with the people in the chat and the people that come to your show. It's just the highlight of 2014, really.
It really is. TFR really is what it says on the banner. It's real people and real radio. And Johnny Whistles, this has been a really, really topsy-turvy year for you, but much like Nanogirls, yours has kind of echoed that, has it not?
Yeah, definitely, Kev. It's been quite a struggle this year, in fact. But, yeah, it's all turned for the better eventually, so, yeah, just there's always something round the corner, do you know what I mean? Just need to keep your head up.
And Whistles, I mean, this has been the year that you've broken to the alternative media. We've covered some amount of stories, Johnny, but I mean, what's some of the guests, some of the highlights that you've had in the past 10 months we've been on now?
Kev, just to be part of KBS and the TFR, to be honest with you, because it really has opened my eyes, and the fact that I'm learning every day, Kev, that has been probably the highlight of my year.
And I think that's what we are all here to do. We are all here to learn. Anyone who ever tells you that they have all the answers, run in the opposite direction right away. Now, like Nano and like Jono, I really have. I've found my fit here. Sometimes it was almost as if I couldn't find my place anywhere. I just didn't fit. But with the people here, especially Chris Gio, Joe Joseph, Popeye, obviously Marty and Johnny, Nano, and too many more to mention. It's so right here. And Nanogirl, something that both of us have carried away from Dr. Richard Allen Miller, is this message of joy. And I absolutely enjoy this to the max. And I don't know if it's because it's what I'm meant to be doing, or whether it's just that I'm surrounded by the right people right now. And I know that'll make sense to you.
Yeah, it does. And the more I think that's what I was striving in the beginning of 2014, that I had worked in a job that I really had come to really dislike, and I'd become, like anybody else, and sometimes in jobs you don't like, you just become the person you don't want to be. And so, how do you get that joy back? How do you get, your right side back aligned to where you feel like life is a pleasure, and it's not, as my friend says, life should just not be so hard. And it shouldn't. And when we struggle, I think things they just don't flow. They don't go well. And I'm sure everybody in the chat has had that experience, that when they get on the ride and they let go, and sometimes you have to work to get there, but I've done so much thinking about what he said, and he's so right, that really is the key to being here, I think, is if you can keep a piece of joy in your heart and somehow just, take good care of that and covet that piece, and then just try to grow it and fill your life with it in all of the things you're trying to do.
Definitely, Nano. And, so many times we speak about we need a revolution and stuff like that. We need to be careful what we wish for. It's all about that intent again. The doc told us about it. What we wish for, we will manifest. And people will probably think, well, a revolution is a good thing. But if you think about a revolution scientifically, what actually is it? It's a 360-degree turn, and you end up exactly where you begun. So a revolution, do we really want to be at the same point that got us to that in the first place, after all the bloodshed that would inevitably come? Or would it not be better to actually have an evolution, a changing of the mind, a changing inside and outside, just locally? You see, this might sound a bit controversial to some of the listeners out there, but I think big secret is, before we can even attempt to change any of this, we have to admit that we aren't going to actually change it one small bit. It's too big a system. We have to find a way of living under the radar, actually just been almost insurgents in the systems. And it's not even insurgents, it's been infosurgents. Because all we can do, the best we can hope for, is just to raise awareness in our immediate circles. And if we can get enough people around us all up to the same level, then to hell with the government. The government, what is the government? Only power we give it is the power we give it. Nano, does that make sense to you? I got lost a bit at the end there. But
no,
really, this revolution thing, and you're seeing it in your country right now, it's coming to a head. That's what they want. Because we will get back to the beginning, where government will offer the solution, and it'll be what they wanted in the first place anyway. And where does that leave us? It'll leave a whole heap of people dead, and they'll be back to square one.
You know, I just wanted to share a visual with you that it's been swimming in my head for days. I'm just going to throw this out there because this is from something that happened on Sunday. So, you know, I was doing my thing, and this woman, she looked like this young man's mom, and the young man was about 8 or 9. And so she walked in the store, and you could tell she had cerebral palsy, and she had this beautiful ponytail, and her ponytail was swinging, and she was walking in the store, and her son just grabbed her hand and walked with her just so lovingly down the aisle of the store. And on the way out, there was these other people that didn't match them, and they all walked out together, and they all blended. And I thought, you know, life is so perfect, and it's this beautiful tapestry that's weaved in and out, you know, and we have a judgment of how it should be and how it should go and how it should look and how it should feel, when it's not like that at all. And I think we miss the mystery. And I looked at her and I looked at that other family, and I thought, this is so perfect. And I think, you know, when you look at the insanity of some of the stuff going on and the tragedy of it, it's perfect because, like your guest said last night, when your thinking and your actions are out of sync, what exactly are you manifesting? Whereas if you can focus on getting them in sync, I mean, what is their game for us? It's to keep us off balance every minute of every day. And, you know, where we want to be is we want to have that magic. We want to feel like watching that son grab his mom's hand. And the reason I thought it was so special is because 9-year-old boys don't usually grab their mom's hands. You know, it's about the time they start to go, hug me in the car when no one looks, you know. And I don't know, just something so classically beautiful about that. And I'm thinking life is so precious and beautiful when we just get out of the way and we don't try to change it or fix it, and we just look at it as the perfection that it is.
And you know, Nano, that really is a really good message there. And Johnny Whistles, living in Glasgow right now, life really is precious. Again, tragedy visited the streets of Glasgow yesterday with the tragic lorry crash in the town centre. And you know, it really hit me for 6. It really did. I don't know why I was so upset over it. Obviously the time of year, family's going to be informed of that terrible news. And then, you know, I thought to myself, this is an everyday reality for people in Pakistan, Yemen, places like that. And you know, if we use the lorry driver as an example, if it turned out that guy, Johnny, and this is pure speculation from what I believe, he just turned ill, but can you imagine he had deliberately done that? Or if, say, he'd had a drink? The outrage from the public. We'd want to lynch him in the street, wouldn't we? But yet, Obama and Cameron, John, they can tell drone pilots to wipe out families at wedding parties. They put it on the news and nobody says a word. But that is no different in my opinion. No different, because all life is special.
Yeah, well, it was an absolute tragedy, what happened in George Square. One of the chefs in the hotel was actually there when it happened. He said it was horrific. This thing, it was just going all along the street, just mowing people down. Incredible, Kev. But
it really is, and especially 1 year on from the last tragedy to visit here, John, when the police helicopter went down. I don't know what Glasgow's done, but the darkness that we talk about really does seem to be around here sometimes.
Yeah, I know. It seems to be that way, Kev. Do you know what I mean? It's as if it's always telling us it's years where we think things are getting better. Do you know what I mean? That darkness always seems to appear at some stage.
Yeah, sorry about that, Johnny. I couldn't even find the mute button there. Yeah, it certainly does. But, you know, while we've been dealing with a bit of dark there, let's throw in a bit of light stuff. And, of course, Christmas is coming up. And, you know, it's always baffled me as to what happens when it's Santa that needs to dump a log down your chimney. So take a listen to this.
Father Christmas?
Oh, hi. I didn't mean to wake you. Was just trying to find the loo.
It wasn't you. It's that stench.
I'm sorry, dearie. Just go back to sleep.
I was dreaming of sugar plums. Then along came the ghost of Christmas arse.
Listen, just give me a second, okay? And I'll wrap this right up.
What is that smell?
Oh, geez, not again.
Holy St. Nicholas!
Please, girls, go back to bed.
He's dropping your logs down his chimney.
Come on now, a little privacy would be great. I've been holding this thing since Dubai.
The whole house smells like a gingerbread manslaughter.
I'm sorry. It's the milk and cookies, okay? Every year destroys me.
Well, now that you're here, dumping lumps of coal in our toilet, what did you get me for Christmas? Grill!
I don't make a meal of it, okay? It's not that bad.
Look what I found!
Jesus, there's another one? Whoa, put that back.
I was looking around for that horrible stench, and I found this under the tree.
That's not for you.
I found hundreds of them, all for us.
As soon as I'm done here, I'm going to get those gifts back,
Oh my God.
and you're all going on the naughty list.
Oh, yeah? Then I'm gonna put you on Instagram. Hashtag busted.
You know who I am? You have any idea?
Put in the cloud with the stinky thoughts.
You can't blackmail Santa.
Look, Kringle, you never should have pinched off a hot slice of fruitcake without using poopery.
Poopery?
Poopery, the gift that stops stinking. Since we're exchanging gifts, here's one for you. Next time, spritz the bowl before you go, and no one else will ever know. So you can keep sneaking without reeking. And your dingleberries will smell like jingleberries.
Anything else?
Yeah, Santa, hurry up. I really need to take a
And that, folks, is how to turn the dingle bells into jingle bells. Nanogirl. I had to lighten it up there. You hate it when we go all dark and depressive. How was that?
I knew you were going to go to me. I did not want to follow that.
Well, Nano,
Wow.
Christmas is coming up, though. I mean,
it is.
do you love this time of year? Everyone seems so much happier this time of year. And it always strikes me, why can't we keep this buzz going all year round?
Do I love this time of year? Typically, no. But this, here's what I do think. I do think that it is a time where people are more open, and I think it's a time for reflection, especially because the first of the year will be coming around next week. And I think it's a time for people to kind of look back, it's kind of what we're doing on the show tonight. It's like, well, where have I been and what have I done, and can I make next year a more special year for myself? Here's what I hope. This is my big hope, big prayer, is that 2014 was a year of revelation, of us realizing some pretty amazing things. The technology and the game plans and getting more comfortable with the fact now that these guys are really planning all this.
And Nano, I have to tip my hat
Wait,
to both
I was
you
gonna do
and
one.
Doolin, though, both you and
Do
Doolin,
one.
because all the shows that you seem to do throughout the year, you were able to predict most of the stuff that were coming.
Well, actually, I have to give that big kudos to Doolin on that. I mean, I just followed his coattails. God bless him. But part two is if we can take basically everything that we kind of went through this year and go forward into 2015 with more expectation and more joy and more fun and say to ourselves, like you said, where's my bubble? Where's that place? I'm not going to change City Hall. I'm not going to make anything different. It's just too big and too ingrained, and they've got the party going. But where can I go, and where are my people, and where is my voice, and where can I make the difference, and where can I have fun? And I do think that's a big part of it. Where can we have fun?
2015, that is all about for me, and for all of us, it should be being the change. And that's something we're definitely going to touch on in part 2. But Johnny Whistles, sticking on the Santa theme here, and I believe you've got a pretty interesting article there that ties Christmas to one of our favourite subjects, quantum physics. Is there a case for Santa being real, John?
Well, if Santa is real, then he's probably more highly intelligent than we give him credit for, Kev, because the physics of Santa, which is from the physics.org, they're saying it's just one night is not much time to deliver all the presents, because time can be extended to up to 48 hours by taking advantage of the Earth's time zones. So starting by delivering presents in the nick of time at international dateline and travelling west. Now, with a total global population of 7 billion and then assuming an average family size of 4 people, you'd have to deliver around 10,000 homes every second in order to get the job done. Now, incredibly, there's actually three ways to look at it. Quantum mechanics.
Quantum. Here we go.
Well, assuming that Santa actually knows how to accomplish his job, it would take a huge amount of energy. This is not to say that he doesn't have tremendous amounts of energy to his disposal, because he's actually got, I think he's got a couple of elves with him and a couple of reindeers, Kev. So I'm not really sure how quantum mechanics works in reindeers.
Well, you see, we have to consider the following, right? Now, there's 300,000 species, they reckon, of animals that have yet to be discovered. Now, obviously, there's a 1 in 300,000 chance that one of those will be a flying reindeer, Johnny. At quantum level, right? That. 1, Santa is never directly observed, but indirect evidence of him abounds. Number 2, if direct observation of him is attempted, not only is Santa not observed, but the indirect evidence of his presence does not appear either. Only if no attempt is made to observe Santa do the stockings get filled. And remember, that all boils back down to the power of observation during experiments. It was discovered a long time ago when they were firing buckyballs that if you weren't in the room, then the buckyballs, when fired at a screen and put through 2 slits, they would act as both a wave and a particle. But only when you, with the power of observation, again, folks, that's how powerful we are. We manifest reality. Our observation absolutely dictates what happens in the real world. Now, Nano, I'm going to play a clip after the break that will probably move on from my take of Santa into somebody just a little bit more knowledgeable in all this stuff. Only Stephen Hawkins. But before we go out to the break, quantum physics and Santa, Nano, I bet you never thought you'd end up on a broadcast where you're talking about that.
No, Kev, I didn't. Honestly, no. But I was thinking, I suddenly saw Google being all things to everyone.
Yeah, give them like drones, 3D printers.
And they can deliver the packages and help Santa. And they'll have the Project Loon. And the Project Loon will be floating all over the entire planet, helping Santa deliver presents. And President Obama has signed a bill that NORAD will never lose sight of Santa.
Exactly.
He's in good hands with Obama.
Yep. Forget it if you're a Malaysian Air Flight 370. But the reindeer and Santa, they are all good folks. Now, coming up after the break tonight, it is not going to be Joe Joseph. The schedule on TFR has changed. Tonight it is the one and only Down the Rabbit Hole with our very good friend Popeye. So stay tuned for that. Joe, myself, what day is this, Johnny? In fact, this is still just the start of the week. Joe will be back on Wednesday night, and then Popeye on Thursday night, and then on Friday night, it's obviously Freaky Friday. And this week, we have got James Swagger coming up. And Whistles, are you joining us for that one?
Oh, I'll be here, Kev. No worries there.
Oh, we have got the Whistler for the week, folks. So we'll be going into more Quantum Santa, some Krampus, and looking forward to the year ahead. Remember, folks, only you can be the change.
This is the Kev Baker Show.
Stand tall in the face of tyranny. I want it all my freedom and liberty. I'll keep my guns, you can keep your security. I'll stand tall in the face of tyranny. I'll stand tall in the face of tyranny. I want it all my freedom and liberty. I'll keep my guns, you can keep your security. I'll stand tall in the face of tyranny.
Welcome back to the second half of tonight's broadcast of the Kev Baker Show, and we are all standing tall in the face of tyranny. Tonight I'm joined by my good friend, regular co-host, Mr. Johnny Sinclair. A big shout out to Martin Hardy, who unfortunately can't join us tonight. Hope everything is going well with you, big man. And of course we are joined by the Nanogirl tonight. And before the break, I was having people scratching their heads, wondering why the heck I was trying to make a case for Santa. Well, it is Christmas, folks. It is the holidays. I am the Woo Master, so why not? We are allowed to have a bit of a laugh. Let's keep it a bit light tonight. And you know, it's not just me that agrees that there is a case for Santa, albeit a quantum one. Even Stephen Hawking wants to get in on the act. Listen to this.
Now, one of the things about having a discussion like this, which many people think, well, this is a silly discussion, Clyde, why are you bringing it up? Well, the reason why I always bring this up every year, and people know this, and they always write me and say, tell the story, Clyde, tell the story, Uncle Clyde. Okay, I'll tell it. I spoke at a seminar at the University of Utah, and I think it was, had to have been in the 1990s, like 1996, 97. I spoke at the University of Utah, and one of the special guests who was there was Stephen Hawking. And so we were backstage at this get-together. And Stephen Hawking and I were talking just before, he was the last speaker, and I was probably like 2 or 3 ahead of him, and he was there, and we were discussing things. And he said, so what do you do for a living? And I said, well, I'm a talk show host. That's why I'm here. I do a talk show. I was kind of ashamed to tell him, because I do a talk show on the paranormal. I said I got kind of under my breath. And he said to me, with his electronic voice, he said, there's no need to be ashamed of that. He said, I'm a scientist, but being a scientist doesn't mean that I can't, think outside the box and understand what it means to, talk to someone who's had an alien abduction or who has experienced something that they can't explain. He said, when you go into the ether, and he says, there is an ether, an ethosphere. He says, a child can shake hands with Mickey Mouse. And no one's going to tell that child that the Mickey Mouse he shook hands with is not real, not tangible, not part of his thought. And he said, even if we leap into the idea that there's a Santa Claus, so this is where we can have a little fun in making sure that using a quantum loophole, we can find that Santa Claus has this slight chance of existing somewhere. I mean, quantum theory and the conversation about it was just fascinating to hear him talk. It was one of the first opportunities I think he had one-on-one to talk with someone about his new ideas about quantum theory. And so he would use Santa Claus as a way to show how this quantum theory could prove a probability of the existence of Santa Claus. Hawking had said that due to the fact that no one knows where Santa is in a particular moment, no one knows where he is at a particular moment in time, that makes him a perfect candidate for some elementary use of Heisenberg's principle of uncertainty. Santa is smeared out over the entire earth on Christmas Eve. There's no way to be precise with his locations. No one knows where he is. This is why NORAD's claim of tracking him is a lie, and that it's been perpetrated by the government in order to control the information about Santa's quantum nature. Of course the smearing of Santa is similar to the manner in which an electron is smeared out within a certain distance from a nucleus to an atom. This is why he can, quite literally, be anywhere and everywhere at any given moment. I know that's mind-boggling for some, but he can be anywhere, he can be everywhere. At any given moment. That's what makes it interesting. That's where you get the loophole. It's the Heisenberg theory of uncertainty. It's the idea of uncertainty. You don't know where he is, and since you can't prove he doesn't exist, but every child on the planet will tell you he exists, then you're going to have to go from the standpoint that he exists, because that atom's somewhere out there, and you got to find him. Yeah, is he a wave or is he a particle? I don't know. He could be tachyon particles for all we know. Yeah, I know you're ribbing me, but I'll tell you. Tachyon particles, Tracy. Tachyon particles. You ever inhaled tachyon particles? You ever did a line of tachyon particles? I mean, come on. Hey, look, he can reduce himself down. Now, this is Stephen Hawking talking, not me, okay? So you can laugh at me, but laugh at Stephen Hawking in the wheelchair. Yeah. Stephen Hawking told me, he said, why is it that everybody at Christmas time is happy? Why do they change the way they act and the way they think unless Santa Claus can reduce himself down to tachyon particles and enter into every single one of us on Christmas Eve, which basically throws this idea into the minds of parents to actually sit down and try to put a bicycle together under a tree at night. Think about it. Or putting together the dog under the tree at night, whichever one comes first. That's the point. And you don't believe in Santa Claus. Even though Stephen Hawking says, now, we go to the quantum nature of Santa Claus, of course, and we talked about this theorem. There's also possibilities that Santa is entirely capable of arriving even before he leaves, which is kind of bizarre. He told me that too. He said, well, if you're standing at North Pole, Clyde, and he's going so fast, then while you're standing there, it's not like he hasn't even left yet. It's like he takes off, he comes back, it happens so quickly that it's like his sleigh didn't even move. And you're standing there as the fulcrum testimony saying, Santa delivered the toys, but I didn't see the damn sleigh move. Why? It happened so fast that it's like the sleigh never left. Physics. Physics. Not logic, but physics.
So it is, Nano. Just physics. And I know that, although this seems like uber-woo and totally silly, it is the holidays, and I know that there must be a part of that resonates with you.
Oh, my God. I have one other quick story. So I'm at the store the other day, and we have a big, yes, Virginia, there's a Santa Claus, and a great big red mailbox. And everybody was writing letters to Santa. By the way, I wrote one. And this mother came in with her daughter's letters. She had 2 letters, one for each daughter. And she said, don't you have any more Santa Claus letters? And I said, oh, hey, I think they're out, She opened her daughter's letter and said, P.S., I'm what's-her-face's mom, and I'd really like a crock pot. And seals it up and puts it in the Santa box. I mean, yes. We all believe in Santa. And like we were saying too, what about the Christ consciousness? Whether you are a Christian or not, Hanukkah or any of these other, religious whatevers, there is this powerful consciousness that comes at this time where I think people just want to for even a day, peace on earth, love for each other, joy, all the words we use. I really think fundamentally that's who so many of us are and what so many of us want and what so many of us just want to feel every single day. I mean, to watch that mother, think about that. She opened her daughter's letter to Santa so she could say, P.S., I want the crock pot. And she goes, and then she says, he'll know who I am. What's her face's mom?
And Johnny Whistles,
awesome.
I've seen you spending some quality time with the guy in the red suit at your work. You must have seen the happiness that descends at this time of year, or have you seen something different?
No, actually, it is like that, Kev. As soon as Santa shows up, there's a smile on people's faces, do you know what I mean? And they were crowding round the big fella, and he actually looked the part as well.
I tell you what, John, he looked like something out of the Anunnaki. For anyone who isn't on Johnny Sinclair's Facebook, how tall was this guy, John? He looked about 7 foot.
Yeah, he said he's 6'6", but honestly, I think it's a lot more than that. He's a giant.
I will still always be wary of a guy who creeps about in a big red suit and invites strange children to come and sit on his knee, and also sports a beard very similar to our Popeyes. Very suspicious indeed. But we were talking before the show and at the top of the show about being the change. And Nano, 2015 is coming up. And I do believe that 2015, 2016 will be pivotal years when it comes to this new world order. 2014, we've really have seen the veil starting to come off. But as we go into 2015 and 2016, I fear that it really is only going to get worse. But at the same time, this is why I was saying before that we have to be the change ourselves, even if it is only in our immediate circles. Wouldn't you agree?
I would. And I think there's a couple of things. I think that, like Stephen Hawking was saying, we don't know what all this matter is around us. We don't know what that is. As Dr. Miller said, is water God? Is water the God consciousness? We don't know a whole lot of stuff, and maybe neither do they. They're ratcheting up their rhetoric. They're playing the drums as loud as they can to get our attention, and the light and the dark love balance. So if they're going for gold this year, then we need to go to gold too. And I think that, like you said, maybe this year was a year that we sort of, as my friend used to say, when you go through tough, difficult times, you're like the sword, and they put you in the fire, because the more they put the steel in the fire, the more you're tempered, the more strong that steel becomes. And maybe this was the year of fire, the year that we walked through our own fire walk and had to not get our feet burned and learn how to do that. And now, 2015, maybe we have more tools than we even know we need, because we can walk through this. And I keep thinking more and more, if we can keep, like I keep saying, if we can keep our thoughts and what we are and be the change, like you're saying, be the change we want to be, that is so powerful. Think what one person can do. We have had talks like that a lot on your show, Kev, and Johnny Whistles, about one person, what one person can do.
Exactly, Nano. And John, it was Ange, Joe Joseph's long-suffering partner. She had made a post on Facebook. I can't remember if it was today or yesterday. But as I've said before, when Ange posts on Facebook, I always take notice. And again, she hit the nail on the head. And, we're talking about being the change. And I'm planning on going out and getting active. But I'm not doing it so that I can tell other people about it, John. And I'm not even going to talk about it on the show, because you see some people doing things and it's almost as if it's for self-gratification. Oh, look at me, I helped somebody. And if we do start to act and be the change, let's just do it for ourselves and for the person we're actually helping. Let's not do it to show others and to be a spectacle on social media.
Well, you do enough, Kev. I mean, you do this show 5 times a week.
John, I just think sometimes when I walk home in particular, I've spent a time being homeless, as you know. I've been in a hostel, and I see one of the local soup kitchens sitting outside the Belgrove Hotel, another hostel in Glasgow, and it's almost guilt, John, because I spent a time relying on something like that to get fed. And yet, how much would it take for me just to spend an hour doing something like that at night? Nothing at all. And sometimes I really do feel guilty that I'm not doing more.
Yeah, that's, Kev, I know, but mate, when you think about it, when the hours you put in at your own job, and then you've got this as well, there's not a lot of time left for something like that. And it's a fantastic idea, but we do, you do as well, you especially, Kev, you have a lot going on, keeping this going and the job, so I honestly think there's enough people out there that they could go to maybe one of the soup kitchens and work for an hour, and you would probably do it yourself sometime, but Kev, there is people there that is just like you. They're always saying, I'm going to do something, but never ever do it. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, John. I do know what you mean. And Nanogirl, I see you're wanting in. Just before I go to you, but somebody in the chat room says Christmas should really be about families and not about some fake figure. And I could not agree more. But last night, myself and Thomas Sheridan, we were talking about the magic power in symbols and tulpas. And if even it takes something like Santa as a symbol to bring some happiness to the consciousness, is that a bad thing?
No, and I wanted to go back to what you were saying. I think that what Johnny Whistles was trying to say too is that, I've noticed a big change in me in this last month. I've been able to sort of pull some of my craziness together, and everyone's noticing it. And maybe that's the gift I can bring, is just in my everyday life.
Nano, you brought somebody a gift at your work the other day. It might seem really insignificant and a throwaway kind of action, but tell the listeners what you helped one guy with.
Oh, finding the designer purse?
Yeah. But tell the listeners about that. It's so simple, but I bet you that guy walked away with a smile on his face. And with that smile, just think how you affected his water, his internal landscape, as the doc would put it. Just that one action that was nothing to you. You're into purses, you're into fashion. That guy was struggling, at wit's end, didn't know what to get. Bang, you provided a solution. Okay, it's not going to bring down the New World Order, but who cares? You've helped somebody else.
And I helped his wife get a really awesome purse.
Exactly.
She didn't get a piece of crap. No, you're right. And I that's what I mean. So Kev, going back to what Johnny was saying, maybe it is in our everyday life or just appreciating the mother and the son, or appreciating the fact that, I got to joke around and have a good time for a little while, helping him do something that, like you said, I just love. And, doing what we can around us and trying to just take some joy in it. And people take joy in your joy. I think that is it. It's that we all know the power in, one of the things we loved about Steve Jobs is because he was Steve Jobs, period, right? He got up, and the one thing the guy did, he was Steve Jobs. We loved him. And I think that's true for people who are it, or movie stars, or people we notice, or even the loving people, our kids, The one thing our kids do is be kids, especially when they're young, because they don't know how to be anything else at that time. And maybe it's just being more of ourselves and being a little playful with the universe. I think the magic of the moment, helping that gentleman with the purse, was playing with the universe. And my sister's been saying this to me for such a long time. She's very good at it. And you almost have to be in this space where you don't have any energy on it, and the universe wants to play. And again, I think if Doc Miller was here tonight, he goes, yes, that's what I'm trying to tell you guys. Play, go play. Because you said the other night, can your life be filled with so much fun that no matter what you're doing, work, play, family, job, radio, can it be real if it's all fun?
Exactly.
Yes.
I was sitting there tomorrow night for the listeners. I'm going to be airing the Klaus Donna interview on ancient mysteries. And I was thinking that to myself. I was sitting enjoying the information I was getting. And I was actually wondering, should I feel guilty about enjoying this? Here I am, putting all this time into this. I've got decorating. I was covered in paint at the time. Anne's out doing Christmas shopping. I've got this to do, that to do, work to do, family to do. And yet, I've never been as happy in my whole life. And Anne knows, that's why she supports me doing this TFR thing. A lot of that joy comes from the people I've met here at TFR. And in particular, you two, Big Marty, Joe, Popeye in the chat, him as well, and Chris. Just such a close soul family here on TFR. And you know, moving into 2015, folks, and being the change, we can only be the change once we actually identify why we are here. What brings us this joy that Nano is actually talking about? We have to find that, folks, because we need to get into this mindset where instead of working to live, having to scrape up pennies all the time, we should be living to work. We should be doing things that bring us that joy. That joy will change our whole lives. I really do believe that. And remember, when you have that joy, that will manifest the reality that you want to see, the change you want to be. But it's all about realizing what your meaning is in life.
I think that's well said. And I think, going back to Steve Jobs, you know, I worked at Apple when he was there the first time. And I think the thing I admired the most about him out of everything was the fact that at such a young age, even at, I think, early 13, I met somebody who knew him when he was in junior high school. He knew what he wanted to do. He knew what he came here to do. I mean, that's got to be God, if there is such a thing, God's greatest gift to you, that you know what you want at that age. I mean,
that is what I'm talking about, folks. In 2015, we have to be the jobs. We have to realize what our meaning in life is. Just listen to this.
If you don't know why you're here, I encourage you to find out what your purpose is here. What is the meaning of your life? What will be different? Have you ever asked yourself that question? And most people, they go to their graves with their greatness still in them. What if you live your whole life only to discover that it was wrong? We've all taken time just to stop and reflect many times when we hear what's happening in the news or read the newspapers. Where's all of this leading to? What's going on here? And so I think that now more than ever, we must begin to look at what are the things that we can do that would put us on some firm footing in life, that will enable us to do some things and use some powers that we have, that many of us go through life never ever discovering that we have those things going for us. And part of that, I believe, is knowing what is your life worth. What is it that gives your life a sense of meaning and purpose? See, if you know what your life work is, I encourage you to start working on it. If you can't do it all at one time, do just a little bit of it. And if you don't know what it is that you showed up to do, if you don't know why you're here, I encourage you to find out what your purpose is here. What is the meaning of your life? Because once you find that, it puts you in your power place. 85% of the American public, according to recent studies, are going to jobs that they hate, working on jobs that do not challenge them. They get sick thinking about going. Because, see, when you go to a job and you already know how far you can go, you can already see that proverbial glass ceiling. See, when you're going someplace and you already know how much you're going to make, you already know how far you can go, you're in a dead-end position. It erodes your self-esteem. It lowers your sense of yourself. It creates an inner turmoil. It creates an emptiness in you. So I say that your life is worth finding. what it is that you're supposed to do. Imagine, if you will, being on your deathbed and standing around your bed, the ghost of the dreams, the ideas, the abilities, the talents given to you by life, but you, for whatever reason, you never pursued those dreams. You never acted on those ideas. You never used those gifts. You never used those talents. And there they are staring at you as you're lying on your bed with large, angry eyes saying, we came to you. Only you could have given us life. And now we must die with you forever. And the question is, if you died today, what dreams, what talents, what abilities, what gifts, what ideas would die with you?
There you go, folks. It's all about finding your meaning in life. Nanogirl, thank you so much, not just for tonight, but for everything since the inception of the Kev Baker Show. You've not just been a great addition, you've been an absolutely essential team member, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
You know what? I'm going to start crying here. You guys, I didn't know that was going to happen. Whoa. You guys have just made my year, seriously, and made a dream come true that I didn't even know I had. So it's been a pleasure.
You know, Johnny Whistles, the doc, says if you can make that tingle happen in your spine, you're halfway to releasing some of that DMT to decalcify that old pineal gland. And if that's true, then that's happening to me right now, man. And the same goes to you. Johnny, none of this show would be possible without you, man. You might think you've been away just recently, but you haven't, because you've always been here, Johnny Whistles. And you're so tired tonight, man. And that is why I appreciate, from the bottom of my heart, you being here.
Thanks very much, Kev. I'm really tired, but honestly, I just love this show. And as you say, Kev, been fantastic to meet Nano. It's been amazing.
Absolutely. One big team, and big Martin Hardy's involved and all of that. And all of you out there in Chatland, I really do mean it. Without you, there is no KBS. But until tomorrow night, wherever you are, make it TFR.
Angel Whispers and Harry Anslinger.
Absolutely awesome stuff. 34 in the chat. Johnny Whistles, how am I sounding? I was coming across a bit hot there to begin with, I believe.
Yeah, you're fine now, Kev. That's perfect, mate.
Excellent stuff. And on that note, let's get to our next guest tonight. Our sister, our divine feminine herself, Nanogirl. How are you doing?
Oh my goodness, I'm great. I was telling you guys before the show, this is a spectacularly beautiful day out here. You only need a sweater, blue sky. They didn't dump too much chemtrails on our head, and it's a great Christmas day. Yay. Close to Christmas.
And of course, Nano, you have this has been a big year for you, as it has for all of us. And at this show tonight, we're going to look back at 2014. We're also going to take a look forward into 2015 and how we can be the change that we want to see in the world. It's something that resonates on this actual network with all of us being the actual change. And I want to start with you, Nano, because you've started with radio this year. You've started a new job. It's all been going on for you. It's been a year of transition. How's 2014 been for the Nanogirl?
Well, you know, it's funny. You've got the Internet of Things. I would call this the year of the letting go of things.
Yeah, it's all turned for the better eventually. So, yeah, just there's always something around the corner, do you know what I mean? Just need to keep your head up.
And Whistles, I mean, this has been the year that you've broken to the alternative media. We've covered some amount of stories, Johnny. But, I mean, what's some of the guests, some of the highlights that you've had in the past 10 months we've been on now?
Kev, just to be part of KBS and the TFR, to be honest with you, because It really has opened my eyes, and the fact that I'm learning every day, Kev, that has been probably the highlight of my year.
And I think that's what we are all here to do. We are all here to learn. Anyone who ever tells you that they have all the answers, run in the opposite direction right away. Now, like Nano and like Jono, I really have. I've found my fit here. Sometimes it was almost as if I couldn't find my place anywhere. I just didn't fit. But with the people here, especially Chris Gio, Joe Joseph, Popeye, obviously Marty and Johnny, Nano, and too many more to mention. It's so right here. And Nanogirl, something that both of us have carried away from Dr. Richard Allen Miller, is this message of joy.
This is the Kev Baker Show. Seeking answers to age-old questions. Deciphering the world painted around you by the mainstream media. This is the Kev Baker Show. And now, here is your host, Kev Baker.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. A big, huge, massive warm welcome to your number one network, www.truthfrequencyradio.com. I'm your host, Kev Baker. This is the Kev Baker Show. And tonight, it gives me absolutely immense pleasure to welcome back to his throne, the king himself, Mr. Johnny Whistles.
How you doing, Kev?
I'm absolutely...
Noises. Sorry, Kev, there's noises in the background, there's clapping and sheep going off and everything in the background here.
Oh, Johnny, is this your first visit to my new chat room? Isn't it so beautiful? Chris Gio done a really good job of that for us here on the Kev Baker Show, and for the Woo crew out there in Chatland.
Oh, fantastic. Honestly, some of them noises are absolutely crazy.
Well, Johnny, I don't know who it was last night, and even with the time delay that there is between us talking on Skype and it going out live, somebody absolutely epically timed a mwahahaha to coincide with the guest talking about psychopaths. You really couldn't make it up. But Johnny, how have you been, man? You've been sorely missed.
Kev, I've just been working like a dog, to be honest with you. But I was really missing the show, and the fact that I can't get to listen to it when I'm at work is another one, so I usually wait to come in the morning.
The glass is always half full. You're on the show now. Let's enjoy it. Let's hit the chat, man.
Okay, Kev. So we'll get 33 people here just now, starting with Kaiser Chief, Matt D, Flower Child, Stushy, Takradact, Al, Kev, Dr. Harry Wiener, North for South, Popeye, how you doing, buddy? Foswald, Dorico, Kevty, Russell Brand, Wardy, Ronnie Whistles, I love that name, Penelope, how you doing, pal? Soup Dragon, Mystical Fairy, John Teeter was here, Kim from Korea, The Third Darkness, Gentleman Skeptic, Paisley Buddy, Etoily Star, something like that, IV Nurse, Harold, Uber, Rookie, Aussie Anzac, We Miss Whistles, thanks very much, Equilibrium,
and thoughts that just no longer work for me. And I think I knew it was a hard year as I walked through most of the days. And I knew that I was having to go into some deep introspection stuff, and it was uncomfortable. This was not a fun year, really, but it's amazing. I mean, look what happened. I've got a job, a great job, and I met you guys. I've never done public speaking. I couldn't remember anything to save my life. I still forget stuff on your show, but for the most part, it's a miracle. I mean, I can come on the show. We have so much in common, and I'm able to just share all this stuff. And I've always been a radio person. I've always listened to shows. I've always wanted to be a part of it, but it just never occurred to me to give it a try. So that's truly one of the best miracles. And to be able to end up meeting you guys, we're just so in sync with so many of the things that we have in our backgrounds and how we love to share things with the people in the chat and the people that come to your show. It's just the highlight of 2014, really.
It really is. TFR really is what it says on the banner. It's real people and real radio. And Johnny Whistles, this has been a really, really topsy-turvy year for you, but much like Nanogirls, yours has kind of echoed that, has it not?
Yeah, definitely, Kev. It's been quite a struggle this year, in fact. But